Today we're for sure going to get a school zone, so we'll see how it works with the school zone, autopilot, and the speed limit signs. Want to see if the speed limit sign is activated for the school zone, whether autopilot will pick that up and make any change to the speed limit according to autopilot at that time. For this test, I do have my normal camera set up and going to have this camera set up as well, and it's going to be pointing right at the autopilot display, so hopefully we'll get some good shots of what actually occurs on the screen when we go through those intersections, because a lot of times things will show up pretty fast and I won't be able to pick it up. So for the first part of this drive, my kids were in the vehicle, so they were a little bit loud, so we're just going to do a voiceover for this first part. This first speed limit sign of 35 shows up perfectly. So coming up ahead, this is a tricky intersection that's even difficult for probably experienced drivers sometimes. Curves to the left and then goes across a railroad track. So in this case, autopilot, not surprisingly, failed to go through that intersection. Gave the good old red hands and had to re-engage autopilot afterwards. Right here, it dipped into the turn lane. They really need to work on where it sees the lines. Most intersections it handles perfectly, just like that one, and it sees most of the speed limit signs. Here, the light turned yellow as it was proceeding through the intersection, but it made the right call in proceeding without stopping at that yellow, because that would have been bad. Now coming up here is the school zone, and the flashing light here for that 30-mile-per-hour speed limit school zone, and it does not react to it in any way. It does see the flashing yellow lights, but it does not change the speed limit at all. So definitively, autopilot does not yet look at speed limit signs that are conditional on school zones with flashing yellow lights, for example. So autopilot could not handle this intersection on the way to school, but here we are on the way back. We're going to see what it does this time. I'm guessing it's still going to have a problem. Let's see. Oh. It gave up right at the end of the intersection, so it really could have made it if it just picked up those lines on the other side. That must be what triggered it, but it was going the right path, so that's pretty interesting. So sadly, I have to report that autopilot does not, at this time, software version 2020.36.3, interact with school zones. So the flashing light did show up on there, but the speed limit around or in between those two flashing lights did not show up at all. So definitely something that autopilot has room to improve on. They have only just begun reading speed limit signs, so I didn't expect them to have the ability to read those school zone signs yet, but it was interesting that it does not pick up the school speed limit sign if there is anything around it. So it does distinguish between just plain speed limit signs and speed limit signs with conditional flashing lights and that sort of thing. It doesn't seem to pick up that speed that's indicated on the school zone sign, which is good. If it can't read it conditionally, then it needs to know at least which ones to ignore, so that's good. Anyway, just a quick test of Autopilot and version 2020.36.3. Please leave below in the comments any suggestions you have for tests that you'd like to see on Autopilot. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.